Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Gold, Goats, and Guns podcast. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Sunday, August 6th, 2017. Remember, the Halsey News crowdfunding campaign over at Indiegogo is still going on. You can find that over at halsey.indiegogo.com. Help us support independent media and the growth of our business into a news network capable of providing you with great content on a daily basis. Also, please, if you would be interested to support my work through Patreon over at patreon.com/goldgoatsandguns. You can also follow my blog over at tomluongo.me, soon to be goldgoatsandguns.com. All that stuff is actually in process and should be done very soon now. As a matter of fact, I just began work on the inaugural edition of the Gold, Goats, and Guns monthly newsletter. It's coming along just fine. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be very cool. It should be a unique product on the market, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, let's get right down to it because we got plenty to talk about. Okay, let's talk about sanctions. All right, so we know that Donald Trump this week signed the sanctions bill as put forward. He did put it forward with a quite an extensive signing statement. That signing statement was obviously written by his lawyers, who fundamentally challenge the constitutionality of the bill, now law, and I firmly expect at some point in the future that he will challenge this law in the Supreme Court because I think it does actually overstep congressional authority in many, many ways. Well, you know, it's funny because, I mean, for years the hardcore libertarian argument has been that the presidency has been arrogating power to itself that it doesn't have through the use of things like signing statements and abusing executive orders and the whole 9 yards. And this really kind of reached its crescendo during the Obama administration. I think that one of the things that Trump has done well is to undo a lot of Obama's legislation through executive order since he's been in office, and it doesn't get a lot of play in the headlines and whatnot. We're constantly focused on a day-to-day basis of the barrage of leaks, fake news, this, that, everything else that's coming out of CNN, the WAPO, and the New York Times. But these things have been done. Then there's other things going on as well that I think are a positive. I think that, you know, by the time we're done, on balance, we may, you know, be pleased with what we see out of President Trump, even though we didn't get, say, 1/4 of what we had hoped for. Because frankly, if we had gotten everything that the man ran on, it would be like Jubilee celebration. And I don't think that that's possible. But as far as sanctions are concerned, we have the first discussion of it, right? The Russians responded last week with their to the bill being signed by forcing the expulsion of our diplomatic staff down to an equivalent number that the Russians have in the U.S. But it's deeper than that. We know that the bill is widely unpopular in Europe. Excuse me. And but we also know that the European Union is run by a bunch of spineless technocrats like Donald Tusk, pictured here today. And what's interesting is that Poland is really in the midst of, is really kind of in the middle of what I think is going to be the wedge that drives the EU apart. And but it's interesting that, you know, with this new bill coming through, the EU was still willing to go through and potentially sanction Siemens for selling the Russians turbines that were supposedly wound up in Crimea, which is against the sanctions. And I just think that this is all quite a lot of grandstanding and political haymaking, obviously previous to the German elections, which are, you know, coming up on us rapidly. They're like 4 to 5 weeks away now. It's not that far away. And I think it's just really weird how this is all playing out. You know, the more I think about the way these moves are being made, it's obvious to me that the sanctions bill is a double-edged sword. Even if you take the idea that the globalists or the oligarchy or the deep state or whatever you want to call them, the shadowy overlords of the planet, some would call them the Jesuits. It's a private joke between me and my Periscope followers. I really don't believe that. Trust me. That if you believe that they're like directing all of this stuff, then the sanctions bill came from them. Then why would the EU be angry with it? Since the EU is run by the same group of people. So, but it truly is, because at a certain level, you can't take the facade down that each of these groups are independent actors. Because at that point, if the facade falls too far, then everybody rebels against it. And that's what's happening in Poland. Because remember, Poland has been our attack dog in the EU for years. And so for the EU to be picking a fight with Poland over its changes to its judiciary and refugee quotas, and willing to go to the mat over this, while at the same time sanctioning a German company for doing business with the Russians, but then complaining that a Dutch company, say Royal Dutch Shell, is not going to be able to supply the Germans with the natural gas they need to run their economy. It's all just this internecine like twaddle. And the more I think about it, the more it leads me to believe one of two things. There's a deeper game that they're playing that's going to allow them to create even greater control over all of this. And they're, going to reach that Tarkin moment where they're going to tighten their grip and keep everybody on their side. Or they really are existentially afraid of Donald Trump to the point of introducing more sanctions on Russia and Germany to ensure that there's no deviation from the herd. And the problem with that is that it's not going to work. That the more you tighten your grip, the more countries will slip through your fingers. We know we got a Catalonia independence vote in October. We know that Hungary is dead set against taking any refugees in whatsoever. The EU is now threatening Poland with Article 7 to kick them out of the EU. That's not going to fly with investors. So all of this stuff is happening like in such a way as to create the maximum amount of chaos and confusion, and that may be the plan. But that's the problem. The more chaos and confusion you create, the more people are just going to reject it and find different solutions. So speaking of that, let's talk about the hard fork in Bitcoin, which turned out to be a non-event. Look, we have countries suing each other over whether or not another country should take a few thousand refugees because they created a contract with each other that one party refuses, one party supposedly refuses to live up to, and the other party and the other side thinks that the other party overstepped their legal authority and the contract's authority, i.e. the Lisbon Treaty, in terms of Germany and Poland. We have $60 billion at stake with the Bitcoin hard fork that went through or user-activated soft fork, or whatever you want to call it, the hard fork of the blockchain, the change to the code that had $60 billion worth of investment, with another couple $100 billion sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happened. Bitter arguments back and forth for multiple years, everybody yelling at each other, no one being willing to compromise, and yada, yada, yada. So at the last moment, a group of miners splits off and says, we're going to make Bitcoin Cash. We're just going to make a completely new token based on the old Bitcoin blockchain. Y'all do whatever you want to do. Seems like an utterly elegant solution to me. This is a model for what's coming in the future. This is a model for how dispute resolution happens in an anarchic situation. Bitcoin just had a $60 billion business forcibly split, not like a stock split, but more like a spin-off. And the best way to describe what happened in layman's terms, or in normal terms, normal financial terms, is it's like ConocoPhillips splitting off its refinery business as Phillips 66. Bitcoin is ConocoPhillips. Bitcoin Cash Phillips 66. The difference is that once the blockchains diverged, ConocoPhillips, Bitcoin, owns no stock in Phillips 66. That's really all there is. Normally in those spinoffs, the parent company keeps a significant portion of the ownership of the subsidiary, or of the spinoff, yada yada yada. But just think of it that way: 2 separate companies, 2 separate ticker symbols, 2 separate management teams, 2 separate sets of investors. May the best blockchain win. No arguments, no recriminations, no lawsuits, no lawyers, no notaries, no bureaucrats, no judges, no politicians. Just people doing their thing. And everybody's happy. All day long, we spend all of our time talking about politics. That's all I do. About how we're forcibly and really it comes down to this guy's trying to forcibly extract wealth from this guy. This guy's not happy about it. What's he going to do in response? Well, he's going to do this, and this, and he's going to do that, and that, and we're going to have this, and then we all get caught up in the drama and the LARPing to quote a friend of mine, of all of this stuff, because it's fascinating, but it really isn't. It's completely and utterly unnecessary. I was listening to the latest interview with Clif High on Watchdog.com with Greg Hunter's channel, and Clif High just kind of cut through all of this stuff and just said it's all just noise. As these people, as the dollar system goes broke, they're just flailing left and right, lashing out, trying to maintain control that they can't maintain, while the new system continues to be built outside of their control, and there's not a thing they can do to stop it. They can complain about it. They can pass laws. They can do all sorts of things. They can threaten. What are they going to do? Take down the internet? At that point, they have no power. Speaking of that, let's talk about what's going to happen this week. I was talking about the future as opposed to the past. So everything else here I'm talking about is the past. Let's talk about the future, which is that this week, to update you a little bit on what's going on in Syria and the potential for peace in that, in what is obviously the results of these evil bastards destroying a country, destroying millions of people, all tied together to the spat with between the EU and Poland over refugees and this, that, and the sanctions and all of this stuff. So Turkey, Iran, Russia, China are going to sit down in Astana, Kazakhstan, and continue to this week to talk about how well the ceasefire areas or the deconfliction areas are holding in Syria, and can they be expanded? And what's the state of affairs? What's important about this is that nothing's changed. All of these things that we've been talking about, oh my God, are they going to stop the Nord Stream pipeline? What does this mean for Turk Stream? What does this mean for this? Oh my God, how is this going to happen? Is there going to be nuclear war with the Russians? What's going on? Oh my God. And diplomacy still happens. And there's still people out there quietly realigning themselves, or not so quietly in the case of Turkey, realigning themselves as old alliances fail and new alliances are formed. Every time Turkey takes a major diplomatic stage with Russia and China, members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, along with Iran, also a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it is prima facie evidence that Turkey is no longer really a member of NATO. And is any other NATO member going to be willing to institute Article 5 of the NATO treaty to go to Turkey's defense at this point? So let's not kid ourselves. There may be some kind of contract in place. Germany wants nothing to do with the Turks. Erdogan just reinstated the death penalty. That's against the Western Europe's value system. If they're complaining they're threatening to kick Poland out of the EU for legislative control over the supreme judiciary in Poland. What do they think about what's going on in Turkey? That's why accession talks have broken down, and they're not going to go any farther. All right. And then the last thing is less. Yes, let's absolutely remind ourselves that Bitcoin just broke above 3,000. Now that we're past the user-activated soft fork, now that Bitcoin Cash is happening, and whether it's going to survive or not is anybody's guess. And Bitcoin is moving forward. And the cryptocurrency space is now capable. Now that we know, now that we have clarity, now capital is beginning to rush right back in where it was rushing in previous to all this nonsense. Fascinating, isn't it? Let's look at the. I mean, it's just unutterably fascinating, right? But cut through the noise, see what's happening. The most powerful bull market in the history of the world is unfolding in front of you. All you have to do is watch it. All right, let's look at the charts. All right, gold. I put the monthly chart up because we had a monthly close on Monday. Let's look at what's happening in gold here. We've got a very volatile trading range forming up here on the monthly chart between 1,200 and 1,300. I'm still not convinced that gold is ready to break to the upside, and I'm certainly not ready to say that it's ready to break to the downside. This is the August volatility for the week. It wasn't very much. $15-20 was actually a low. It was a pretty low volatility for gold this week. Normally gold moves about $30 low to high or more on an average week. So, knowing that, looking at what's happening now, if we continue to get any kind of dampening of volatility in this price range, that's usually a good indicator. We're going to get a trend change soon, and the weekly chart is absolutely bullish right now. So that would indicate that we may see some softer prices. I'll show you the silver chart. The silver chart looks terrible. There's going to be a washout, puke your guts out bottom in silver that no one is going to want to own, and that's when you're going to want to buy. We're not there yet on silver. Here it is. Here's the silver monthly chart. 1514 is absolutely what you want to be looking at for. I don't think we'll get that low this month. We did get a break above the July high here in early August, so the probability of hitting 1514 is really low. It's less than 10%. So we'll probably we may see a continuation of this downtrend, or this could be a simple pullback for the week, and then we move higher since we did get a break this week of the July high. So it's possible that after a very strong rally that we're just taking a break here on both gold and silver, and we could see a move back towards 18. That would be strong. That would be good. That 1514 could be the puke your guts out bottom in silver. I'm not convinced of it. I think there's still a dollar liquidity moment that needs to be dealt with first, and then we can move on. But then again, listening to Clif High, he'll tell you that silver's going to cease to be a monetary metal at all within a year. If Cliff's right about that, then, we who hold silver will become very, very happy. But, we'll see if he's right. He's been right about a lot of other things, but we'll see if he's right. All right, and then the last thing I want to show you is, again, I'm going to keep putting this up just to keep reminding you of just how historic that bar from 4 weeks ago was, to see the immense breadth of volatility in Bitcoin and how it was able to survive what looked like an unbelievably ugly washout. To get a 40% correction over a 5-week period that dipped near 2,000 once within a week, and then it dipped below it over the course of the next 7 trading days, 6 or 7 trading days crossing between this bar and the low here, and then to see what it's done since then, that's insane. That's just insane, especially considering that you have a solid double top here on the weekly chart, and it's more like a triple or quadruple top on the daily chart, where you can see those 3 or 4 attempts at a push above 2,900. And, once the user-activated soft fork went through, and once Bitcoin Cash stabilized, and everybody, and it looked like nothing was going to, that everything was working properly, the Bitcoin blew through 3,000, in the blink of an eye. Like it wasn't even resistance. It leaves you speechless, to be honest. I can talk all day long. Matter of fact, my wife complains I never shut up. Bitcoin's beginning to leave me a little speechless, guys. All right, so think about that very carefully. $4,000 is absolutely in sight over the course of the next couple of weeks. Volatility is going to be heart-stopping, but if I were to back this out and show you the monthly chart, you would go, "Wow, that's a pretty chart," because it kind of looks like this. From a monthly perspective, it pretty much looks like that. A couple of long tails here and there, but nothing to be worried about. Not that I would worry about. All right. This week's, we'll probably see much more of this. We're going to see a lot more of the crazy stuff. And we'll chronicle it all. Because, why not? It's fun that way. All right, you guys have a great week. You take care. Talk to you soon. Keep your stick on the ice.